Everyone's chasing Tacomas and Tundras, and that's exactly why you're losing. While everybody fights over the same popular trucks and drives prices through the roof, there's a whole other market of capable, reliable, and dirt-cheap pickups sitting on lots and Craigslist ads that almost nobody is paying attention to, and that's your advantage. These aren't junkers. These aren't problem trucks nobody wants for a reason. These are legitimate workhorses that got overlooked because of a badge, a reputation that never quite caught on, or simply because they weren't the cool pick at the time. But mechanically, some of these will outlast trucks that cost twice as much. So if you're in the market for a used truck and you don't want to overpay, stick around, because these 7 ignored trucks might be the smartest buys on the used market right now. Nobody wants this truck. That's the whole point. Suzuki left the US market in 2012 and took whatever was left of their reputation with them. Sellers panic, prices drop, buyers scroll past, and quietly, in the background, people who actually know what they're looking at are picking these up for pennies. Because here's what the Suzuki Equator actually is: a Nissan Frontier. Not inspired by, not similar to, the same truck, same frame, same 4.0-liter V6, same transmission, same everything, just with a different badge screwed onto the tailgate. Nissan and Suzuki built them together, and the only real difference is that one of them costs half as much on the used market. Parts? Nissan parts. Mechanic? Any mechanic. Engine life? The same 4.0-liter that routinely hits 250,000 miles in Frontiers. The fear around this truck is entirely irrational, and irrational fear is where the best deals live. If you can stomach the badge, this might be the most straightforward value play in the used truck market right now. Truck guys hated this thing, called it soft, called it a fake truck, said it wasn't real because it didn't have a body-on-frame chassis. Meanwhile, owners were quietly driving them to 250, 300, 350,000 miles. The Ridgeline is a Honda. And if you've spent any time around Hondas, you already know what that means. The 3.5-liter V6 under the hood is the same engine family that powers Pilots, Odysseys, and Accords. Engines so overbuilt, they almost seem bored running around in normal cars. Stick one in a truck and drive it sensibly, and it'll outlast almost anything else on this list. The unibody construction that made truck purists roll their eyes is actually what makes this thing drive like a dream. It's comfortable. It doesn't beat you up. It's quiet on the highway. And it has a lockable storage trunk built into the bed floor, a feature that's more useful in real life than a solid axle ever will be for 90% of buyers. Can it tow 10,000 pounds? No. Does the average person towing a jet ski or a small trailer care? Also no. The people who dismissed the Ridgeline were judging it by criteria that didn't apply to how they actually use a truck. Their loss, your gain. This one's almost too easy. The Mazda B-Series is a Ford Ranger. Not metaphorically, literally. Built on the same platform, in the same plants, with the same mechanical components. Mazda and Ford were partners, and the B-Series was the result. The only meaningful difference between owning one of these and owning a Ranger is that Mazda badge on the hood. And that badge costs you nothing extra to maintain. You buy Ford parts. You go to any shop that knows Rangers, which is every shop, because the Ranger was everywhere. The repair manuals are interchangeable. The community knowledge is enormous. There is no downside. So why are B-Series trucks cheaper than Rangers? Because buyers recognize the Mazda name from sedans and crossovers, not trucks. It doesn't feel right to them. And that slight psychological discomfort is all that separates you from a great deal. Find a clean one, especially from the late 2000s with the 4.0-liter V6. Drive it. Maintain it. Watch it refuse to die. Here's a number for you: 9,500 pounds. That's how much the Nissan Titan can tow. For context, that's more than many F-150 configurations from the same era. The 5.6-liter V8 makes 317 horsepower. The cab is roomy. The ride is solid. On paper, this truck competes directly with the big 3 full-size pickups. On the used market, it sells like it doesn't. The Titan has always been the odd one out in the full-size segment, not because it's worse, but because it's not a Ford, not a Chevy, not a Ram. American truck buyers have brand loyalty baked deep into their bones, and Nissan never cracked that wall. So the Titan kept getting passed over, generation after generation, by buyers who didn't even give it a real look. Their stubbornness is your opportunity. A 2012 Titan with 80,000 miles is going to cost you significantly less than a comparable F-150 or Silverado from the same year, with the same mileage doing the same jobs. The 5.6-liter engine is not the problem people make it out to be when it's maintained properly. These trucks have plenty of high-mileage examples still running strong. Buy on capability, not on the name stamped on the tailgate. Nobody talks about the Sonoma anymore. That's not an accident. It's just how it goes with trucks that were never flashy, never controversial, never anything other than exactly what they were supposed to be. The Sonoma was a compact pickup. It worked. It kept working. And when it got old enough to be cheap, nobody rushed to buy it because it doesn't have a story, no cult following, no YouTube rabbit holes. Just a solid little truck sitting in driveways and on Craigslist listings, waiting for someone practical enough to take it seriously. It shares its bones with the Chevy S10, one of the most produced compact trucks in American history. That means the parts ecosystem is huge, the mechanic familiarity is universal, and a DIY repair almost always has a YouTube tutorial and a forum thread behind it. The ZR2 off-road package, if you can find one, gave this small truck a wider stance, a lifted suspension, and genuine trail capability that still holds up. This isn't a truck you buy to impress anyone. It's a truck you buy because you need something that works, and you're not interested in overpaying for the privilege. That's an underrated quality. Nissan sold this truck for over 15 years without making any significant changes. The automotive press mocked them for it relentlessly. Journalists called it dated, outdated, a relic. Owners called it paid off and still running. Here's the thing about a platform that doesn't change. The problems get found early, fixed, and documented. By 2015, every quirk of the second-gen Frontier was known, cataloged, and solved. There were no surprises left, no new software glitches, no first-year production issues on a revised engine. Just a thoroughly understood, thoroughly tested truck that mechanics had been seeing for a decade. The 4.0-liter V6 is excellent. The Pro 4X trim is a genuine off-road truck. Towing numbers are competitive for the segment. And because Nissan ran this generation so long, there are examples everywhere, across a huge range of prices and mileage levels. You have options. Used Frontiers from this era consistently come in well below Tacomas of similar age and condition. If your priority is a mid-sized truck that will actually last and won't financially punish you every time something needs fixing, the math here is hard to argue with. Ford killed the Ranger in 2011. No warning, no replacement lined up, just gone. Ranger fans were furious. Some of them are still furious. But here's what that cancellation did to the market. It briefly made used Rangers more valuable as supply dried up and demand held. And then the new Ranger came back in 2019, buyers moved on, and the old ones quietly got cheap again. That's where we are now. The classic Ranger, the one that spent decades being refined into one of the most dependable compact trucks ever built, is sitting at prices that would have seemed impossible 10 years ago. The 4.0-liter V6 in the later models is the engine to get. Simple, strong, well understood. These trucks have almost no unnecessary complexity. No turbochargers, no dual clutch transmissions, no drive modes. You turn the key, it starts, you go. Something breaks, you fix it without needing a dealer. Parts are everywhere because these things were everywhere. The Ranger wasn't canceled because it was bad. It was canceled because Ford wanted to push buyers toward the F-150. The truck itself had nothing wrong with it. And now that sentiment has finally caught up with the price, it's worth paying attention to. Most people buy trucks emotionally. That's why they overpay. They buy what their dad drove. They buy what looks good in the driveway. They buy the name that makes them feel like they made the right choice. And they pay a premium for that feeling every single time. Every truck on this list got cheap for reasons that have nothing to do with reliability. A badge that left the market. A body style that didn't look traditional enough. A platform that didn't get enough marketing. None of that affects whether the engine starts on a cold morning. None of it affects how many miles it'll go before it asks for anything serious. The used truck market has a gap between perception and reality, and that gap is where real value lives. These 7 trucks are sitting in that gap right now. Some of them won't be there forever. The Frontier already got its redesign, and awareness around some of these models is slowly growing. Do your homework before you buy anything. Pull the history report. Get a pre-purchase inspection from someone you trust. Check the specific year for known issues. because every model has them. But go in with your eyes open, not with someone else's prejudices, and you'll come out ahead. The best truck deal you'll ever find probably doesn't have a Toyota badge on it. It's just waiting for someone smart enough to look past that.